Welcome to my channel, Simply Mama Cooks. I'm Angelica. By the way, be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So today I'm going to show you 3 recipes using potatoes that I consider budget-friendly, cheap eats. Here's how I make them.
So I'm making this for one person today. I'm using a very small potato that I've peeled and rinsed. Now I'm cutting it into tiny cubes. And I'm not really perfecting the cube here. It's just a small cube, just like this. So now I'm going to add a little bit of oil to a preheated skillet. It's about a tablespoon of oil or so to a preheated nonstick skillet. And on a medium-high heat, I'm going to saute my potatoes. I'm adding a little bit of salt, and I'm going to saute them on a medium-high heat for about 5 minutes. And you'll notice the edges are a little bit golden brown. So now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of water, cover it with a lid, and lower the heat all the way to low because they'll burn if you walk away. You want to make sure you lower the heat, and I'm going to let them steam/cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to scramble 2 large eggs. And me and my sister, we go back and forth on this. She likes to scramble the eggs in the pan. I like to beat them in a bowl first. Do the method that you like. This is what I like to do. By the way, hi Moni, miss you. Okay, so my potatoes have been cooking or steaming for about 7 minutes, and I just like to break one open to see if it's cooked in the center and tender, so it's ready to go. Now I'm going to add my eggs right into the pan, and I'm going to cook it. Now, if you like your eggs well done like I do, you're just going to mix and scramble and turn them over until they are done. And if you think my eggs are too dry, then don't cook them as long. But I really like a well-cooked scrambled egg. Once your egg is cooked till desired doneness, you can finish it with some salt and pepper. But as I stated earlier, I love to add ketchup and Louisiana hot sauce. You could use Tabasco, Salsa, Tapatio. It's all up to you, but this is where it's at for me. I'm going to make tacos de nada, or tacos of nothing. So here I have 2 medium and 1 small potato. And all I'm going to do is give these a really good rinse and just scrub the exterior until you remove all the debris. And I'm going to add them to a pot of water. I'm going to place this on the stove, bring my pot of water up to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and cover it with a lid. And I'm just going to cook these until they are cooked through and tender, or until my chopstick can go through a potato and release without any resistance. I'm going to set them aside to allow them to cool before I peel the skin. So now that my potatoes have cooled enough so that I can peel them, I'm just going to remove all of the skin. And boiling your potatoes with the skin on actually yields more potato. You waste less of it instead of peeling with a knife. So I'm going to give these a mash. I'm going to season with some salt and pepper to taste. And I'm going to continue mashing these and mixing these until they are thick and paste-like. So I've warmed up my corn tortillas, and now I'm going to show you why they call them tacos de nada. You basically smear a little bit of your mashed potato onto the corn tortilla, and this really is a little bit, and you just give it a press and fold, and that's it. Once all of my tacos are assembled, I'm going to start frying them in oil, and I'm just going to fry these until they are deep golden brown and crispy. Next, I'm going to work on 2 different salsas. Here, I'm going to be using 1 medium to large tomato, 5 dried guajillo chiles, and 3 chile árbol. The chile árbol is where the spice is going to come from. Here, I have a very small piece of onion and 1 fresh clove of garlic. That's also going to go into this. So what I'm going to do next is remove the stems and the seeds from my chile guajillos. In the chile árbol, I left the seeds and just removed the stems. So you'll want to wash and rinse these well to remove any debris. I'm going to add water to my pot, and I'm going to bring my pot of dried chiles up to a boil. I'm going to cover with the lid to expedite the process. And for those of you wondering, this is a ramen noodle pot. I bought this at a Korean supermarket. So once it comes up to boil, I'm going to shut off the heat and I'm going to add the tomato, onion, and garlic into the steeping water and just let this steep and set for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the dried chiles are soft and pliable. Okay, so it's been around 15 minutes, so I'm going to add everything into my blender cup. Once everything's in the blender cup, I'm going to add tomato flavored chicken bouillon powder, salt to taste, some of that steeping liquid. You could also add fresh water if the steeping liquid is bitter. And now just puree well. Once it's blended and pureed, I'm going to strain this in a fine wire mesh strainer. And you'll want to taste it for salt and seasoning and adjust to your preference. So I'm going to set this aside until I'm ready to use it. So for the green salsa, I'm going to use 2 tomatillos, and these are large. I'm going to use 1 jalapeno. I'm also going to use a small piece of onion and 1 clove of garlic, and I'm going to leave the skin on because now I'm going to saute everything, and if you leave the skin on the garlic, it prevents it from burning. So I'm going to saute this over a medium to medium-high heat for about 5 minutes. Add 1 cup of water. Cover this with a lid and allow it to simmer and cook for about 5 minutes. Once it's done, I'm going to shut off the heat and add this to my blender cup. I'm going to add that liquid, some chicken bouillon powder, salt to taste, and puree. Now that it's done, I'm going to pass this through a fine wire mesh strainer and set this aside until I'm ready to use it. And those are the 2 salsas that I'm going to be topping my tacos with. So I'm going to shred some fresh cabbage. You could also use lettuce. And once it's thinly shredded or chopped, I'm going to give it a good rinse in cold water. And this will be ready to top my tacos de nada. So some people call these tacos de nada or just tacos dorados, but adding the red and the green salsa and topping it with cabbage and cotija cheese and crema is basically inspired by Loncheria Lupita. She's located in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico, and she's famous for these tacos de nada. You can top how you like and enjoy. Now I'm going to show you another potato recipe called papas en salsa. I'm going to use 1 large Roma tomato. You could use 2 small ones, a small piece of onion, 1 jalapeno, 1 clove of garlic, and I am leaving the skin on the garlic. You'll want to do that when you go to saute it. You don't want it to burn. Here I have 1 dried guajillo chile that I'm going to remove the stem and seeds from. And be sure to give everything a good rinse. So here in a preheated pan with oil, I'm going to add all of my ingredients, and the dried guajillo chile is going to cook really fast, so don't walk away. It takes less than a minute. So I'm going to remove it, continue the saute, and once everything is done, I'm going to remove it from the pan. So here I'm going to remove the stem from the jalapeno and the skin from the garlic. Now I'm ready to blend and puree this. So everything's in my blender cup. Now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of chicken bouillon powder and half a cup of water. I'm going to cover it with a lid and puree. You might need a little more water, and you could skip the chicken bouillon powder and just add a little bit of salt. It's really to taste. So when my grandmother would make papas en salsa, she always liked to make it mild, but my grandfather, when he would make it, he'd use serrano peppers, which was so spicy, so we knew not to eat his version. But either way, you can make it however you like. Now that my salsa is pureed and blended, I'm going to set aside until I need it. So I've already prepped my potatoes. Here I have a pound of russet potatoes that I peeled, and I just put them in cold water until I was ready to use them. This prevents them from oxidizing. So now what I'm going to do is dry them well and slice them into rounds. I'm not measuring this, but it's maybe 1/4 inch thick. You don't want them too thin and you don't want them too thick. So here in a preheated pan over medium heat, I'm adding 1.5 tablespoons or so of cooking oil, and now I'm going to saute my potatoes. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of fine salt and saute them around 5 minutes on each side over medium heat. You'll want to do this in a single layer in your pan. I'm working with a 10-inch pan, by the way. So I'm going to give them a flip and continue cooking. You'll really want to take your time with this because this does help expedite the cooking process for the potatoes. So once I've sauteed them on each side, I'm going to add my onion, and this is optional. My grandmother would do this sometimes, and actually sometimes she wouldn't even make salsa, she would just add a can of tomato sauce. So once my onions have had a chance to saute, I'm going to add my salsa. Now I'm just going to combine and stir. You'll want to bring it up to a simmer, cover with a lid, lower the heat, and just cook and simmer until they are cooked through and tender for about 10 to 15 minutes. And you might find that you need to add some more water to this. Stewing anything in tomato sauce doesn't cook as easily as you would with more water content, so be sure to add some more water if needed. So at this point it's been 15 minutes and these potatoes are done. They are fork tender and soft. So now it's time to make my eggs and then breakfast. Be sure to subscribe and click that bell notification to get all of my latest videos. I sure would appreciate it. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.